I read recently in, I think it was the Ami or maybe Mishpacha magazine, I read this small little piece about something called the switching places technique, which means, and this comes down to communication, which is whenever you're having an argument, switch the side that you are defending. Meaning, you defend your spouse's side, and they defend yours. If you try this out, it seems so simple, and it maybe even seems like a little silly, but if you try that out, you will see in the end, you're just going to end up laughing at yourselves. Welcome back to the Jews Next Door podcast, where we explore a different topic of our parenting hierarchy each month with the goal of raising the next generation of passionate and committed Jews. I'm your host, Rabbi Yair Menchel, and in this episode, we finish off our topic of Shalom Bayis, of marital harmony, with our deep dive, where we will be wrapping up this series with the most fundamental takeaways on this topic. I hope that you have been really gaining so much from the basics, the practical, the intervention, our special guest episode, and now that this deep dive will help you to be able to wrap it up, to have the perfect takeaways, to really keep implementing these different tools and tips to be able to really improve your marriages, your Shalom Bayis. That way, you can be the best parent you can possibly be. Without further ado, enjoy the episode. The first thing I want to talk about is that marriage, we have to realize, is not looking what we can take, what we can gain. As soon as we have a shift in our mindset, where we go from thinking, how can I gain from this relationship, but rather about what I can give in this relationship, then we will start to understand what true love is. Right? In the Torah, when we go to the first example, the Gra famously says that whenever you want to understand something, you have to go to the first example of it. So the first example of love in the Torah was when Adam Harishon gave up his rib. As a result of giving up that rib, that's how he got Chava in return. That's what true love is. In Sheva Brachot, we often give the bracha that, and we say this concept that a chatan, a groom, is doma lamelach. He's similar to a king. How long does that last? The answer that I got when I was actually in my own Sheva Brachot is that a chatan is doma lamelach as long as he is treating his wife as a queen, as a malka. As long as you are treating your wife as a queen, which we're going to go through what that means, but as long as you are treating your wife as a queen, then you are a melech. And it goes both ways. As long as the wife is treating her husband like a king, then she is a malka. And that's Shalom Bayis. It's about shifting that mindset. It's not looking, what can I take from this relationship, but how can I give? Because the more you're treating someone with love, meaning through giving, that's when they're going to become a melech and a malka. And it starts with, and this is the most important thing, is that the marriage has to be the number one priority for both partners. It has to be. Both individuals have to make this the number one priority, even over the children. And I know this is a parenting podcast, but here's the thing. If you make your marriage a priority over anything else, even over your children, then everything else in your life will benefit more, including, and maybe more than anything else, your children. The more you and your partner are on the same page, and we will talk about what that means, but the more that the love is felt and is genuine and is the priority, then the relationship is going to be so healthy, then you will be able to best give over to your children, to your jobs, to your social life, to everything else. Because whenever there isn't shalom bayis, whenever there is not marital harmony, that's when everything else is so much more challenging. So how do we do that? How do we accomplish this? What does it mean to make it our number one priority? It all comes down to two things: expectations and communication. I remember when I first got married, we got this incredible advice, this concept, which is like this: talk, talk, and talk until you're blue in the face. No matter what's going on, you just got to talk it out. And you got to talk and talk and talk and talk until you are blue in the face. If you do that, if you really talk through everything with your spouse, then that's the key to it all. If you have clear communication, and it's not always going to be easy, especially if As you were growing up, let's say you didn't have the greatest communication skills, or let's say you as growing up as a child, you didn't have so much confrontation, or you didn't like to have confrontation. You tried to avoid it. So maybe you don't have those skills as much. So yes, it's going to take some working, but there is no such thing as any relationship without communication. So it's first things first, you must talk and talk and talk until you are blue in the face. I read recently in, I think it was the Ami or maybe Mishpacha magazine. I read this small little piece about something called the switching places technique, which means, and this comes down to communication, which is whenever you're having an argument, switch the side that you are defending. Meaning, you defend your spouse's side and they defend yours. If you try this out, it seems so simple and it maybe even seems like a little silly, but if you try that out, you will see in the end, you're just going to end up laughing at yourselves, right? When there's a fight, the ultimate goal is not for either individual to be the winner. Because if an individual wins, the couple has lost. But if the couple wins, the individuals have won as well. That's this idea that we're talking about, that if it's the number one priority, if we're prioritizing our relationship over anything else, so it's not about my ego or about me winning, but I know that I'm right. It doesn't matter about who's right in this situation. It matters about what's best for my relationship. What's best for my number one priority, which is this marriage. If we prioritize that over anything else, then we've won. And then the next thing is the expectations. So first things first, there is this concept called love languages, right? You can look them up. There's so many different types. Some people really love quality time. Some people like gifts. Some people like affirmations. There's a lot of different types. So you can look at them. It's important to realize that when it comes to love languages, there are primary and there are secondary ones. And this is the most important point, is that as marriages evolve, love languages evolve as well. So in the beginning, someone might not care as much about, let's say, quality time. And then as life goes on and the stressors start to kick in and, maybe some children come in and, as Elisa Ben Shalom said, they add so much stress to our lives. They're so meaningful and they can be so incredible, but they add so much stress, as we all know. So maybe one spouse might start to miss the other because they don't have that quality time. And when one spouse is starting to feel that, if they don't go and then communicate that to their partner, then how can they expect the spouse to know that that's what they need at this time? Right? Without communicating our expectations, that's when we get into trouble. If we have the ability to be, self-aware and know, okay, this is what I need right now, and then communicate it, we're going to be golden. But if we have these grandiose expectations of what, the day is going to be, or what this weekend is going to be, this Shabbos is going to be, this night is going to be, and we have expectations and we don't communicate them, then that is going to result in a lot of marital disharmony. It's it's going to be the breaking of the shalom in the bayit. So the first things first is that, like we spoke about, you have to be self-aware. You have to know what you need. And then, like we said before, you have to talk, and talk. And I think you could probably finish it until you are blue in the face. The last thing I want to discuss on this mini episode, this little deep dive, is that we need to have a unified front with children. As discussed on the episode with Slavy Young Rice Wolf, chutzpah is born when we don't have a unified front. Now, I'm not saying that means that we don't fight at all in front of our children. 100% not. But it's about how we disagree in front of our children. And in the end, to have a unified front. So we can disagree in front of our children and they should see it because they need to see all aspects of relationship. And there's an important line between what they should see and what they shouldn't see. If it's going to be one of those big blowout fights, definitely should not be done in front of them. If it's going to be some little bickering, something that we know we can work out, then that's healthy for them to see. And then they have to then see they need to see how we resolved it, because that gives them the skills to learn how to resolve conflicts. And then B, they have to see that we are a unified front. Because think about it. If we don't show them that unified front, what happens? What's the next step? What's the child seeing? The child seeing we don't respect each other. We don't listen to each other. And then they see, oh, wait, I don't need to listen to other people, just like my parents don't listen to other people. And remember, something that has come up in almost every episode of this podcast so far is that parenting is all about modeling. So if we are modeling some level of chutzpah on our own, that we are not listening to each other in a respectful way, then we're showing our child it is okay to not listen respectfully. We can disagree 100%, 1,000%, and we will. And it comes down to, like we said, it's about communication. How we communicate. Are we communicating respectfully? If we can do that and show our child that even though we don't fully agree, we can still come to a healthy place about it, we're going to be golden. Because then our child's seeing the best of everything. They're seeing, yes, not everything is always going to be rosy. It's not always going to be perfect, but our child's seeing that it can be worked out too. So with this, we wrap up this episode, this topic of Shalom Bayis. And this is such an important and necessary step in order to lay, it's the last topic of laying the groundwork for our children. Because in order to build healthy children, which is our next topic, you need to first have these three things. You need to have a relationship with your child. Your child needs to feel safe, and you need to have Shalom Bayis. That Shalom Bayis is what helps your child to feel safe. First, there's some other components that a child needs in order to feel safe, 100%. And then after that, in order to have their full safety, after dealing with all the other components, the technology, the drugs, the substances, all those different things that we spoke about, they need to then also feel safe in their home. And the Shalom Bayis that we build allows our children to feel, oh, home? That's my place. That's my safe haven. Even when things are, challenging at school, there's bullying, and which hopefully we keep them safe from as well. Or there's emotions that they have that they're not even sure what to do, or they're feeling overwhelmed by school, or whatever it is. And then they know that they can come home and they have a stable place where it's going to be great. That is the biggest gift we can give our children. The most important thing we can give to them is a stable home. So I hope that you have gained from this. And I'd love for you to really reach out. I really would love to hear your feedback, whether it is on any of the episodes, the basics, the practical, the intervention, the special guest episode, this deep dive. Really, I'd love to hear your feedback. Respond to me on email, on Instagram, on Twitter, whatever it is. We'd love to hear from you. Check us out at jenalf.org. You could email at us at hi@jenalf.org. And I'd love to continue the conversation with you, and looking forward to continuing another topic with you shortly next week. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of The Jews Next Door. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. I'd love to hear your takeaways. Reach out to us. Reach out to me at yair@jenalf.org, hi@jenalf.org. You can check us out on the website. You could leave a question there. We'd love to be in touch. Please be in touch. Check us out on Instagram at Parenting the Jews Next Door. Hit me up on Twitter at Yair Menchel. And we're on TikTok now too. We have some great content, a lot of really great insights into parenting, tips, parenting pointers, reaction videos, and quotes. We have a lot going on. We have a lot of articles. You want to check it out. Check it out at jenalf.org. You won't be sorry you did. And I look forward to hearing from you. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the podcast, make sure you subscribe and share it with your family and friends. Looking forward to another great episode next week.